Hello all, welcome back to my channel. This is Sheba and I'm on here to share two journaling pages that I created in my Canson journal that I picked up from Amazon maybe about a year ago. I only did one page in here that I never share with you all, but I'm going to share two pages in this journal that I have created using all Tim Holtz related items. But before I get started, I hope that you're all having a great day. Happy Sunday to you all. Had a great weekend. I know it's been some time since I've been on YouTube. There's just been a lot going on. I've still been creating, playing with my Dina Wakley journal. I've made some spreads in there, or pages in there, created some pages in that journal. And then I just decided to pick up this journal and create two pages in here. But yeah, like I said, there's been a lot going on, with work, everyday life. And then I had an uncle that was not doing good, and he actually passed away this past Tuesday. So yeah, so like I said, there's been a lot going on, but here I am to share with you all these two pages that I created. So I have been in my craft room doing a lot of, just playing with my journals, just trying to keep my mind occupied and, and just be in my happy place. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you all the first what I use, and then I'll share with you all what I created in this journal. Like I said, I got it from Amazon. So I created a card, and what I used, it wasn't supposed to be a Halloween card. I actually kind of messed up a little bit on it, but my husband wanted it. He's like, no, I'll take it. If you're going to make another one, I'll take this one. So I made a card, a Halloween themed card. So I did use this Tim Holtz stencil, which is THS 184. So I used that along with some black opaque texture paste through that stencil. And on my spread, I didn't want to do a moon, but he was like, you put a moon in the background. So I had the moon mask. So I went ahead and used a moon mask and put that behind the image that I'm going to share. And then I also used this die right here on the card. And then the star of the show is this die. So this die right here is called Funky Floral number 3. So like I said, I use that. And then this right here is called Arthur. And this was so much fun to put together. So like I said, the first card I'm going to share with you all, I messed up just very little under the eyes. I put the die that I cut out in the wrong spot. So when I peeled it up, it kind of messed up a little bit of the eye, but it's not really that noticeable. But anyway, but it was a lot of fun. The first time putting it together was kind of challenging, but when I did the second image in my journal, it turned out, it was a lot quicker. So I used that, and then also the 3D Texture Phase Large A5 embossing folder that Tim Holtz has released. This is the lumbar large, and so I use that, and I really like these because if you want to do a journal spread, you have a larger embossing folder. I think I said I call this die, but a larger embossing folder to cut and make it fit in your journal. So this is, I love these. I love these dies. I mean, these embossing folders. And then along with that, I did use on the card that I created for my husband, I used squeezed lemonade for the moon, hickory smoke. And then I just used various colors of like vintage photo, gathered twigs, antique linen for the eyes, stormy sky for the eyes, and ground espresso. So I just used various different oxides that I colored the image in with. I did use watercolor cardstock, which is not Tim Holtz, but I did use watercolor cardstock, and then I used some distressed cardstock for the base of my card. So this is the card that I created for my husband. I think I shared everything, and then I did use black soot to just distress the background. So here's the card that I created, and I was going to throw this out in the trash, and he's like, no, I'll take it. So I just kind of created this for him. So this is where I messed up at, right here, right underneath the eye just a little bit. So here's that moon mask stencil, the background. Here's the opaque black stenciling that I did with the bat stencil and a black opaque texture paste. And then here's that die that I did, and I just used some I used some barn door to color that in to kind of give like a fallish vibe. And then I just did, I think the walnut stain, I kind of put it on lightly and then put it on a little bit darker for the tree branch that the owl is sitting on. So yeah, so this is, and then this is black soot right here. I just lightly did it here. And then for the eyebrows, I did it a little bit darker so you can see it. And then this is like that hickory smoke distress oxide. So yeah, so like I said, everything I use oxide when I, ran it through my die cut, the pieces, which is a lot of pieces. I just went back with the distress oxide color and colored it in. And then like the little white dots on the eyes, this is actually a dye. I didn't use it on my card because my spread because I was like, that's just too much. So yeah, so I kind of went with the flow on the first time, and then I just kind of changed up very little on my spread. So that is that card that I want to go ahead and share with you all. And I think it turned out really cute though once it's all said and done. It takes away from a little flaw that I did, but yeah. So that is that card that I created for my husband. Okay, so then moving into mine. So I did use the same branch here. I used Arthur, the die. And then I used this embossing folder, which, like I said, is the lumbar large. I didn't use on the card, but I used it in the journal. And then I used those same various different color distress oxides. I also used... I believe I used, yeah, I did. I used speckled egg, walnut stain, and the rusty hinge for the background. So let me go ahead and share with you all, and along with some distress archival ink and black soot. So let me just flip to the page for this first one. So here's my spread that I created in my journal. So, like I said, I wanted mine to be like the owl was sitting in the tree on the branch. So, I use that embossing folder in the background, which I use those 3 color distress oxides to do the background. And then I also did use distress archival ink. I just kind of put it on the embossing folder on the raised side. And when I ran it through, that's what gave me the dark lines, like in the bark of the tree. So, that's why I did learn that from Tim Holtz. And then here are, oh, I didn't bring out a die. Let me share it with you guys. 1 second. One moment. Where did I put it? So here is this die. So he did introduce his classics, some of his classic dies. He brought them back through Sizzix. And I already had this die. I've been having this die for several years, just never used it. And so... this was, I did buy the other ones, but I didn't have to buy this one because I already had it. And I don't know why I never used it, but yeah, so I used that. So here's where I use that die that says Hello Fall. And this is called alphanumeric cutout lower. Alphanumeric cutout lower. So it doesn't cut out like the circles out, like the, the openings of the A, B, D, the E, stuff like that. It doesn't cut those out. It just leaves them solid, but you can still see the impression of it, which these are some really nice letters here. I really like those. So I just cut that out with some black distressed cardstock. And then here's a little tree vines, and I use a barn door to distress those. And then this is another little image from that same die set that I just set on top of the branch. And here's the owl. Here's Arthur. I just changed it up very little on some of the colors, if you can tell. I just kind of changed it up just very little, but pretty much the same. And this was a lot of fun to play with. A lot of fun to play with. So yeah, so this is a spread that I created in my journal. One of the 2. And then I did use some rusty hinge distress spritz, and I just kind of spritzed the background. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I just distress it in the back. And then on the page itself, I did just take some distress oxide and black soot and just kind of distress the page. I just forgot to ink around the edge of my image here, around the image of the actual cardstock, but that's okay. It still has a black soot outlining around the border, so it still works. And then this was kind of hard because I kind of had a little accident right here when I was creating my next page, but it's all good. So yeah, so that's what that is. Just a little happy accident that happened when I was creating the next page. So let me go ahead and move this stuff out the way so I can share with you all the next spread that I created. But before I share with you all, so on this one, I did use the Sidekick side order, and this is called letterpress. So I did use the embossing folder and along with the alphabets here. And then I also used this Sidekick side order, and this is called Vault Florist. So I use this flower right here. And then I also use from this die set, which is called Vault Foliage Wreath. And so I use like that wreath right there, and I used this leaf right here to give me some fall leaves on my image. And then I also used Black Soot Distress Oxide, a little bit of the Rusty Hinge Spritz, and the Rusty Hinge Distress Oxide Spray, along with some archival ink and black soot, and then just some various colors of Distress Oxide. So let me go ahead and flip the page and share with you all that page. So here is this page that I created. So I wanted to make a ledger board, or a letter board. I keep saying ledger, letter board, using that side order embossing folder. So what I did first with this, I did spray the background, like I said, with the Rusty Hinge and the black soot. I sprayed the background, you know, to my liking, and then I did spritz the background with the Rusty Hinge spritz. And then once that dried, then I started working on the embossing. So I just cut the page down to what I want, you know, the size that I wanted. And then I ran it through the embossing folder through my die cut machine 3 different times. So it wasn't perfect, but it still worked out. And so that's what I did with the black Distress Archival, Black Soot Archival ink. And then once I did that, then I used Distress Heavyweight cardstock from Tim Holtz. And so then I just cut me some strips to make a border around my ledger board, like it's in a wood frame, like you would see in general. And I did use walnut stain to distress that, to color that in. And then I used some black soot to kind of just give it some more distressing. And then I used this flower right here that I did use. I used barn door and walnut stain to color that in. So I put a flower here and then a flower right here. And then here are the letters from the side order die. And it just spells out autumn is in the air. Autumn is in the air. And I did distress that with just a little bit stressing with some black soot distress ink. And then I went around the flower and the leaves with walnut stain just to kind of give that some distressing as well. And then I also used the distress spritz. And I just took the top off and used a little nozzle and just kind of dabbed it where I wanted those highlights of shine to be. And that is this page. So yeah, so those are my 2 journal pages. So this is Autumn is in the Air, using the ledger embossing folder. And then we have Mr. Author, Hello Fall. So yes, you guys, so those are my pages that I wanted to share with you all. This was the first page I did when I first got the journal. I had made a card that I shared with you all here on YouTube, and I was just kind of playing in the journal, so I made this spread right here, just kind of something really simple. I just never shared it. But yeah, so I'm like, let me pull it back out and share. So this was the second image that I did after I did the Mr. Author. So yes, you all, so I hope that you all enjoyed my share of my pages that I did in my Canson journal. And this, like I said, is mixed media cardstock, so you don't have to use gesso or anything to get it, you know, to get started. You just can just start working on it. So yes, I think I shared with you all everything. Like I said, I just use various different distress oxide inks for the coloring of Mr. Arthur. And then, you know, I use less on this one right here, but love the way this turned out. So yes, you guys, so thank you all so much for watching. You all have yourself a great day. Have a great week ahead, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.